When millionaire Jack pretended to be poor to find true love, he never expected the woman across from him to pull out her last money and pay for their dinner. That single act of kindness from a struggling teacher would either expose his lie or prove that real wealth has nothing to do with bank accounts. Jack stood on the balcony of his penthouse apartment in Accra, watching the city lights flicker like stars below. At 35, he owned 3 successful construction companies, 2 hotels, and more wealth than he could spend in 3 lifetimes. Yet as he looked down at the bustling streets, he felt emptier than the beggars asking for coins. "Papa, why do you look so sad?" Jack turned to see his twin sons, Kofi and Kojo, both 8 years old, standing in their matching pajamas. Their innocent eyes held the same concern that had been haunting him for months. "I'm not sad, my boys," he lied, kneeling to their level. "Just thinking." "About Mama?" Kojo asked softly. Jack's heart clenched. Their mother, his wife Sarah, had died in a car accident 2 years ago. Since then, he had thrown himself into work, building his empire bigger and bigger, hoping the success would fill the hole in his chest. It never did. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But mostly I'm thinking about how lonely our big house feels." Kofi, the bolder of the twins, stepped closer. "Maybe you should find us a new mama. Someone kind like the women in our storybooks." Jack had tried dating, but every woman who approached him seemed more interested in his bank account than his heart. They would smile too brightly when they saw his expensive cars, ask about his businesses before asking about his day, and treat his sons like accessories to a wealthy lifestyle rather than the precious children they were. "It's not that simple, son," Jack said, stroking Kofi's head. "People see our money first, not who we really are." "Then why don't you pretend to be poor?" Kojo suggested with the simple wisdom only children possess. "Like in the movies when the prince dresses like a regular person?" Jack stared at his son, struck by the idea. What if he could meet someone who would love him for who he truly was, not what he owned? 3 weeks later, Jack stood in front of his mirror, barely recognizing himself. Gone were the expensive suits and gold watch. Instead, he wore faded jeans, a simple t-shirt, and old sneakers he'd borrowed from his gardener. His luxury car sat in the garage while he prepared to take a taxi to the small restaurant in East Legon, where he'd arranged to meet Amma. They had connected through a community volunteer group's WhatsApp chat. She had posted about organizing a fundraiser for orphaned children, and something about her passionate words had drawn him in. They had talked for hours about helping others, about dreams and fears, about everything except money. When he finally asked to meet her, his heart had raced like a teenager's. "Papa, you look different," Kofi said, giggling at his father's transformation. "That's the point," Jack replied, his stomach churning with nerves. "Remember, boys, we're just regular people tonight. Our car is broken, I work as a teacher, and we live in a small house. Can you do that for Papa?" Both boys nodded eagerly, excited to be part of their father's adventure. The taxi ride to the restaurant felt longer than any flight Jack had ever taken. His palms were sweating as he thought about Amma. From their calls, he knew she was a primary school teacher who lived with her elderly grandmother and younger brother. She had a laugh that made his heart skip, and a way of talking about children that reminded him why he'd fallen in love with Sarah. Mama Akoshwa's restaurant was nothing like the 5-star establishments Jack usually frequented. The plastic chairs were mismatched, the tables were covered with faded floral tablecloths, and the air was thick with the smell of palm oil and grilled fish. It was perfect. Jack spotted Amma immediately. She sat at a corner table wearing a simple yellow dress that made her skin glow. Her hair was braided naturally without expensive extensions, and when she looked up and smiled, Jack felt his breath catch in his throat. She was beautiful in the most genuine way. Not the painted, artificial beauty he was used to, but something warm and real. "Jack?" she asked, standing as he approached with the twins. Yes, and these are my sons, Kofi and Kojo, he said, his voice slightly shaky. Amma's face lit up as she bent down to the boy's level. Hello, handsome princes. I'm Amma. I've heard so much about you from your father. The boys, coached to be on their best behavior, shook her hand politely. But Jack could see their genuine curiosity about this woman who made their father nervous. Please, sit, Amma said, gesturing to the chairs. I hope you don't mind this place. It's not fancy, but Mama Akoshwa makes the best kelawel in Accra. It's perfect, Jack said, and he meant it. When was the last time he'd sat somewhere that felt so real, so honest? As they settled in, Amma chatted easily with the boys, asking about their school and favorite subjects. She listened to their answers with genuine interest, laughing at Kojo's jokes and encouraging Kofi's shyness with gentle questions. Your sons are wonderful, she told Jack. You can see they have good hearts. That says everything about their father. Jack felt a warmth spread through his chest that had nothing to do with the spicy pepper soup they'd ordered. As the evening progressed, Jack found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't in years. Without the pressure of his wealth and status, he could just be himself. Amma told them about her students, how she often bought school supplies with her own money because the children couldn't afford them. She spoke about her grandmother, who had raised her after her parents died, and her younger brother Samuel, who was studying engineering at university. It's not easy, she admitted, but family is everything. Money comes and goes, but the people we love are what make life worth living. Jack nearly choked on his drink. If only she knew how much money he had, and how little happiness it had brought him. The boys were falling asleep in their chairs when disaster struck. Jack reached for his wallet to pay the bill, but his heart sank as he realized he'd grabbed the wrong one from his car. The simple black wallet he'd brought contained only 20 cedis, barely enough for their taxi home, let alone the meal. His face burned with embarrassment as he stared at the bill. 45 cedis. In his normal life, he wouldn't think twice about spending 1,000 times that amount. Now, with 20 cedis to his name and the woman he was falling for watching, he felt smaller than he ever had. I'm so sorry, he began, his voice cracking. I thought I had enough money, but I can't pay for this. Amma looked at him with concern, not judgment. What's wrong? I only have 20 cedis, he whispered, wanting to disappear into the floor. I'm so embarrassed. Let me call someone to bring money, or maybe we can... Stop, Amma said firmly. She reached into her small purse and counted out her money carefully. Jack watched, his throat tight with emotion, as she laid out 30 cedis on the table, money he could tell she probably needed for something important. There, she said with a smile that broke his heart. We're all set. Jack stared at the money on the table, his eyes filling with tears he couldn't explain. This woman, who worked multiple jobs to support her family, who probably counted every cedi twice before spending it, had just paid for their meal without hesitation. Amma, I can't let you do this, he protested. That's your money. You need it. She reached across the table and took his hand. Her palm was soft but marked with the calluses of someone who worked hard for everything she had. Jack, listen to me, she said gently. I don't care about the money. I care about you and your boys. I can see you're a good man who works hard to provide for his children. Sometimes we all need help. Today I can help you. Tomorrow maybe you'll help someone else. The simple kindness in her voice shattered something inside Jack's chest. When was the last time someone had helped him without wanting something in return? When had anyone seen him struggle and offered support instead of judgment? Why? He whispered. You barely know me. Amma squeezed his hand. Because I know enough. I know you love your sons more than anything. I know you work hard. You told me about staying late to prepare lessons for your students. I know you volunteer to help children because you believe in giving back. Money doesn't make a person good, Jack. Your actions do. Tears rolled down Jack's cheeks, and he didn't try to hide them. Kofi and Kojo woke up and looked at their father with worry. "Papa, why are you crying?" Kojo asked. "Because Auntie Amma is very kind," Jack said, his voice thick with emotion. "She has a beautiful heart." Amma blushed, but her smile grew brighter. "Your father is special too, boys. Not every man would bring his children on a first meeting. It shows he's proud of you and trusts me with the most important people in his life." As they walked outside to find taxis, Jack felt the weight of his deception crushing down on him. Amma had just shown him more genuine love and kindness than he'd experienced in years, and it was all based on a lie. "I want to see you again," she said as they waited on the street. "If you'd like to." "I would love that more than anything," Jack replied honestly. "But Amma, there's something I need to tell you. Something important." She looked at him with those trusting eyes, and he almost confessed everything right there. But the boys were tired, and the street was noisy, and he was still reeling from the evening's emotions. "What is it?" she asked. Jack took a deep breath. "Can we meet tomorrow? Just the two of us? There are things about my life that I haven't been completely honest about." A shadow crossed her face, and Jack's heart clenched with fear. Was she thinking he was married? A criminal? Something worse than a millionaire living a lie? "Are you in trouble?" she asked quietly. "Are your sons safe?" The fact that her first concern was for his children made Jack love her even more. "We're safe," he assured her. "It's nothing dangerous. I need to tell you who I really am." She studied his face for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. There's a small park near my house. Okponglo Junction. Do you know it?" Jack knew it well. Ironically, he'd built the shopping complex right next to it. "I'll find it." As her taxi pulled away, Amma waved goodbye to the boys, who waved back enthusiastically from their own taxi window. Jack sat in silence during the ride home, his mind racing with plans for tomorrow's confession. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He stood again on his balcony, but this time the city lights looked different. They looked like possibilities instead of reminders of his isolation. "Papa?" Kofi appeared beside him, rubbing his eyes. "I can't sleep either." "Why not, son?" "I keep thinking about Auntie Amma. She was so nice to us, and she helped you when you needed it." Jack lifted his son onto his lap. "What did you think of her?" "I liked her," Kofi said simply. "She listened when I talked about my drawings. Most grown-ups just pretend to listen." "And she smelled like flowers," Kojo added, joining them on the balcony. "Not like expensive perfume, like real flowers from grandmother's garden." Jack's heart ached. His sons, who had been surrounded by wealth their entire lives, were drawn to Amma's simple authenticity just as he was. "Boys, what if I told you that tomorrow I have to tell Auntie Amma the truth about who we really are? About our house and our money and everything?" The twins exchanged a look that seemed far too mature for their 8 years. "Will she be angry?" Kojo asked. "She might be. I lied to her about being poor." Kofi considered this seriously. "But you're not really lying, Papa. You are poor." "What do you mean? We have lots of money." "Money isn't everything," Kofi said with startling wisdom. "You told us that. You're poor because you're lonely. You're poor because you miss Mama. You're poor because you work all the time and never smile." "But Auntie Amma made you smile tonight," Kojo added. "Real smiles, not the pretend ones you give your business friends." Jack hugged his sons tighter, amazed by their insight. Perhaps his deception wasn't as simple as he'd thought. Perhaps he really had been poor in the ways that mattered most. The next afternoon, Jack arrived at Okponglo Junction 30 minutes early. He'd spent hours choosing what to wear, finally settling on nice but modest clothes. Not the rags from yesterday, but not his usual designer suits either. He found Amma sitting on a bench under a large mango tree, wearing a blue dress and looking nervous. His heart hammered as he approached. "Hi," he said, settling beside her with careful distance between them. "Hi." She turned to face him fully. "You looked so serious yesterday. I've been worried all night." Jack took a deep breath. "Amma, I need to tell you something that might change how you feel about me. I lied to you about who I am." Her face went very still. "What kind of lie?" "I'm not a teacher. I don't live in a small house. My car isn't broken." The words tumbled out in a rush. "I'm wealthy, Amma. Very wealthy. I own multiple businesses. I live in a penthouse. I lied because every woman I've met since my wife died has only wanted my money, not me." Amma stared at him for a long moment. Then, to his surprise, she started laughing. "That's it?" she asked. "That's your big confession? That you have money?" Jack blinked in confusion. "You're not angry?" "Jack, I teach children for a living. Do you know how many lies I hear every day? My dog ate my homework. I forgot my lunch money. I didn't hit him back." She shook her head, smiling. "You lied because you were protecting your heart. That's not the same as lying to hurt someone." "But you paid for dinner with money you probably needed." "And I'd do it again," she interrupted. "Not for rich Jack or poor Jack, but for the Jack who cried when someone showed him kindness. The Jack who brings his children to meet someone important to him. The Jack who volunteers to help orphans and talks about his late wife with such love." Tears sprang to Jack's eyes again. "You're not upset?" Amma reached for his hand. "I'm upset that you felt you had to lie. I'm sad that people have hurt you so badly that you couldn't trust me with the truth. But I'm not upset about who you really are. Can I ask you something?" Amma said after they'd sat in comfortable silence for a while. "Anything." "Why me?" "You could have any woman you want. Models, lawyers, doctors, women who match your lifestyle. Why are you here with a simple school teacher?" Jack turned to face her fully. "Because you're not simple, Amma. You're extraordinary. You work 3 jobs to put your brother through university. You spend your own money on school supplies for children who aren't even yours. You took care of your grandmother when she was sick. You paid for dinner for a man you thought was struggling without hesitation. Those are just normal things." "No," Jack said firmly. "They're not. I've met hundreds of people who talk about kindness but never practice it. You live it every day without thinking about it. That's not simple. That's rare." Amma looked down at their joined hands. "And what happens now? Do you go back to your penthouse and I go back to my grandmother's house? Do we pretend this could work?" "I don't know," Jack admitted. "I know I don't want to lose you. I know that last night was the happiest I've been since Sarah died. I know my sons haven't stopped talking about you." "Your sons are wonderful. They like you, really like you, and they're good judges of character." Amma smiled. "What are you asking me, Jack?" "I'm asking if you could love a millionaire the same way you were starting to love a poor teacher. I'm asking if you'll give us a chance to figure out what this could be." Over the next few months, Jack and Amma built their relationship on the foundation of truth they'd finally established. "Papa," Kofi said one evening as Jack tucked him into bed, "are you going to marry Auntie Amma?" Jack's heart skipped. "Would you want me to?" "Yes," both boys said at the same time. "But only if she wants to be our mama too," Kojo added. "Not just your wife." "Why do you think she'd want that?" "Because she already acts like our mama," Kofi said matter-of-factly. "She worries about us. She celebrates when we do good things. She gets sad when we're hurt. And she loves us the same way she loves you, Kojo added. We can tell. 1 year later, Jack stood in the garden, watching Amma, his wife, laugh with Kofi and Kojo as they planted vegetables. She was glowing, pregnant with their first child together. They'd had a simple wedding, started a foundation, and filled their home with love and laughter. Jack knelt in the dirt beside them, no longer chasing wealth, but embracing the life he once feared he'd lost. Amma placed his hand on her belly and whispered, "This is the real treasure." And Jack knew he hadn't just found love, he had built something priceless. A family, a future, a joy money could never buy. Please subscribe to the channel and comment your favorite moment in the story. Take care until next time.